All around the world, we're seeing the potential for massive flare-ups in 2026.
One of the darker predictions of yours is that we are now well on our way to World War III. What are you looking at? Is this possible triggers? You look at the chain reactions because, well, as we saw from the previous two world wars, one thing tends to lead to another and one gets sucked in and there doesn't seem to be a reverse button at any point. So what is it that you're assessing?
For 20 years, NATO was expanding into Russian sphere of influence. And for 20 years, Putin has been warning NATO, you have to stop, otherwise we have to react. We have to protect our sovereignty. NATO refused to listen. NATO was extremely arrogant, and that forces Putin's hand. America just stuck with $38 trillion in debt, and the America Ponzi scheme would collapse. So for this is a life and death struggle for America.
This is Professor Jiang Xueqin, or as he is known online as Predictive History. Jiang is a Chinese teacher who lectures in Beijing, in a classroom with a whiteboard and students taking notes. But his lessons do not stay in that room. They end up online, in podcasts and clip channels, where people listen like it is a briefing about the future. He mixes sounds intense, so let's put it in plain language. Jiang is saying the United States is no longer acting like a global referee. It is acting like a country that wants to lock down its own backyard first. And by backyard, he means the Americas. The phrase Monroe Doctrine is an old United States idea. It basically means outside powers should not control the Western Hemisphere. For most people, it sounds like a history term. For Jiang, it is now a live policy again. And in late 2025, the Venezuela situation heated up. The Trump administration ramped up pressure. United States forces seized at least one oil tanker connected to that push. A lot of naval power showed up in the Caribbean. That is not normal background noise. That is a message. Jiang's warning is about what happens next. If the United States starts treating the region like our territory, countries in that region will resist. Even if they dislike Venezuela's government, they also dislike being pushed around. And once a few countries resist, the fight grows wider. So his first front is the Western Hemisphere, where the United States tries to enforce control and other countries push back. His second piece of evidence of escalating conflict in 2026 is the war in Ukraine. Let's again hear from Jiang. This is one of Jiang's strongest claims, that the war does not end, it spreads. Now, parts of what he says are opinions, but some parts match real debates. Europe has frozen a huge pile of Russian money, and leaders have argued over whether to seize it, or use the interest from it to fund Ukraine. That debate is real, and it is still happening. Ukraine has also faced serious strain inside its army. There have been large numbers of AWOL and desertion cases reported, and that kind of stress changes everything. At the same time, Russia keeps pushing and keeps talking like it wants more, not less. Even when peace talks are mentioned, the fighting does not pause. So here is Jiang's chain reaction idea. He thinks Europe is scared of a peace deal because a peace deal lets Russia breathe, rebuild, and come back stronger. And he thinks that fear pushes Europe toward deeper involvement over time. Even if you think he is exaggerating, the risk is easy to see. When a war drags on long enough, people stop asking, how do we end this? They start asking, how do we win this? And once that happens, lines get crossed. So Jiang's second front is Europe and Russia, with Ukraine in the middle, and a growing chance that one mistake turns a proxy war into a direct war. Then he points to the third front, the Middle East, and he argues it is the most likely spark. This is where his style becomes very blunt. Everything is connected. Some parts of this are clearly his interpretation, not confirmed facts. But we can still look at the bigger picture he is pointing at. First, Israel and Iran have been on a hair trigger. There was a major round of fighting in 2025. And even after it cooled, warnings kept coming that both sides were rebuilding and getting ready for what might come next. Second, fear spreads fast after real attacks. In December 2025, Sydney suffered a major terrorist attack at Bondi Beach that killed 15 people. Investigators said there was no public evidence of a larger cell behind it. So Jiang's 16 people detail does not match what has been reported publicly. But his bigger point is about how fast blame can start flying after a tragedy. Third, the shooting of a nuclear physicist in America points to another real story that shocked people in the same month. An MIT plasma scientist was shot and killed at his home. That kind of event adds to a sense that the world is spinning out. Jiang's argument is simple. When the world is tense, separate events get pulled into one story. People start connecting dots. Governments start pointing fingers. And even weak evidence can become a reason to escalate. So when he says World War III is coming in 2026, he is not saying one button will be pressed. He is saying the world is now set up for chain reactions. A move in Venezuela triggers a response in the Caribbean. A funding move in Europe triggers a new strike or a new threat. A hit in the Middle East triggers a wider regional war. And the scariest part is that each side thinks it is acting in defense. The United States says it is defending its hemisphere. Russia says it is defending its borders. Israel says it is defending its people. Iran says it is defending its regime. Europe says it is defending its future. Jiang's fans listen because this is the world they feel they are already living in. In his view, the old rules-based order used to act like a speed limit. It did not stop crashes, but it slowed people down. He thinks that speed limit is now gone, and 2026 is where the pileups start. So what do you do with a warning like this? You do not panic. You do not treat it like a movie trailer. You watch the pressure points. Watch the Western Hemisphere and Venezuela, because the United States is showing it will use force there. Watch Ukraine, because even if a deal gets talked about, the war is still grinding, and both sides are still escalating. And watch the Middle East, because the last round was not a clean end, and both sides are still preparing. Professor Jiang Xueqin built his name by being early, not by being safe. In 2025, he got famous for saying the quiet part out loud. The future is not stable. And now his last warning is simple. If 2025 was the year the world turned sharp, then 2026 could be the year it breaks.